Today on NCIX Tech Tips, we are going to be answering an age-old question. Which is better, AMD or Intel? As you're probably aware if you're watching NCIX Tech Tips, Intel and AMD are both microprocessor companies. They design them, and in Intel's case, they actually even manufacture them themselves. So how can you really say, well, one of them is better than the other? I mean, you can compare them in a lot of different ways. You can say, well, Intel has a much greater market share than AMD, or you can say that AMD at certain price points presents an outstanding value compared to the Intel solutions that would compete with them. But the reality of it is that this technology is constantly changing, and it's never as simple as saying one company is great and the other one is terrible, or vice versa. So I'm going to introduce you to the concept of leapfrogging, and that's what AMD and Intel, and actually many competing companies do. Whether you're manufacturing cars, or microprocessors, or skateboards, you're always trying to find an edge where you can outcompete your competitors. So these two are great examples. In my right hand, I have the AMD Phenom 2 1090T, and this is a pretty unique product because it has 6 processing cores. That's right, 6 processing cores at a price that is about 1/3 the cost of a competing Intel 6-core processor. That's pretty outstanding, right? But then we've also got the Core i7-930. This is a quad-core processor from Intel that supports triple-channel DDR3 memory, which is more than anyone else on the market, because they're Intel and they lead in a lot of ways like that. And it's also one of the highest performing quad cores on the market. Well, that's pretty impressive too. Maybe you should go with one of those then. Basically, what we're going to talk about today is that it's never that simple. To add to the complexity, it's not as simple as it used to be, in that it used to be you could take one processor from AMD, and if it ran at 1 gigahertz, then that was definitely faster than an Intel processor that ran at 900 megahertz. It used to work that way, but it's not anymore. Now you have to factor in how many cores, how efficient the architecture is overall, and a number of other things. What about features? Here's an example. AMD has their 6-core, which is an unlocked processor. That means it's easier to overclock than Intel's quad-core, not unlocked processor. Does that mean it's better? Hopefully you can answer this for me. No, not necessarily. It comes down to your needs. And another thing that you have to factor in is the overall ecosystem. For example, if you want to build a gaming rig and you can't decide whether you want to run SLI with dual graphics cards from NVIDIA, or if you want to run Crossfire with dual graphics cards from ATI, well, with Intel, you can pick up an X58 or a P55 motherboard and you can run either one. And that way you can upgrade to whatever dual GPU platform you want in the future. Whereas with AMD, most of the boards support only Crossfire on the high end. So you have to lock into, well, I want to just run AMD Radeon graphics cards if you want to have a super high horsepower GPU configuration. Another thing to factor in is, again, your specific needs. So if you have, say for example, the need to have a nice onboard video card, okay? So you want an integrated GPU. You want something that runs with very little power consumption, maybe for a home theater PC. You know what? The reality of it is, right now AMD has the better solution on the market. Their 880G chipset is outstanding. You pair that with a low power CPU, and you've got like just a killer home theater PC, or whatever it is you're trying to do. So I realize I've sort of made this more complicated probably rather than actually simplifying it. So I'm going to condense it down a little bit. It comes down to your individual needs. This is actually much like the bottleneck episode that we did quite recently, where basically what I'm saying is whatever it is you need to do or you want to do, you have to buy something that's appropriate for it. So ultimately, hey, you got a scenario where you want to do a ton of video encoding on your PC, you want to build it on a budget, buy an AMD 6-core because that's going to smoke anything else in that price point for that particular application. You want to build a wicked gaming PC and you want to have the option to have SLI or Crossfire in the future, well, you're going to use an Intel CPU then, because that's what dictates what you use, is what you want to use it for. I am so sick of hearing, oh, AMD runs hotter than Intel, or Intel's more stable than AMD, or vice versa. It's just not true. It's not that simple. It comes down to the individual products, your individual needs and the platform you want to run on. I mean, here's a perfect example. AMD supports DDR2. Intel, with all of their current generation products, does not support DDR2 at all. So hey, you've got some DDR2 lying around, you want to use it in your new machine? Great. Grab an AMD 6-core, now you've got a cutting-edge processor. You can upgrade to DDR3 later if you feel like it, but now, on a budget, you've got your new machine up and running. So there you go. That's the answer in a nutshell. There is no answer. It's not that simple, and I don't expect anyone to ever send me a message again, which is better, AMD or Intel, because this answer will always be true. Cameraman's idea. This is a new little segment we want to do at the end of the episode here. I want you guys to leave a comment under the video and just tell me, which one do you prefer, AMD or Intel? But I don't want to see anything like AMD rocks or Intel to rocks or whatever else you want to type. Don't type that. Fight the instinct, okay? I want you to type which one you prefer and why that particular processor is the best for your specific needs and what they are.